Yeah, I'm so sorry. You guys are gonna have to recollect that. It hemolyzed.
All right, so if you're not following Lindsay, go ahead and follow her. She's got great content. Now, this video is chock full of stuff, so I'm going to stitch the crap out of this video. Let's talk about hemolysis. Why are the samples hemolyzing? And of course, most of them are at bedside. It is pre-lab where the hemolysis happens. So let's talk about it. All right, so the main fundamental reason why our blood hemolyzes is due to cavitation. When we induce or put the blood in a high pressure environment to a low pressure environment so quickly, the more rapidly, the more delta of pressure, the more likely that blood's gonna what's called cavitate. So the red blood cells start to stretch and then collapse and stretch and collapse. The gases start to leach out and pull out and start to nucleate, and that causes this hemolysis event. So that's the science and the physics behind what happens. Why does it happen? When we pull from that vacutainer tube, pull the blood too hard or hold that negative pressure because we haven't filled that vacutainer tube. It's also when we pull with the syringe too hard. It's also when we infuse or transfuse too quickly through a small bore catheter. Remember, we're pressurizing and then decompressing rapidly through a small hole. This is why you want a large bore catheter so that you don't hemolyze that sample. Now, there is a theory about trauma to the veins. I think the trauma is probably also inducing cavitation, but that's a whole different theoretical argument there. So shaking the tube too hard, the tube stations, the the blood hitting the bottom of that tube too much or too quickly could also cause trauma. Again, I think it has more to do with cavitation and pressure changes, but I digress. What's the solution? The solution is to pull from that syringe as gently as possible. You want to pull with the least amount of negative pressure. The reason why we don't just bloodlet is one thing, risk for air embolism, depending on where their body is and where that hole is, but it's also a risk for contamination. Mostly it's a high risk for infection when we just open up that lure lock and let the blood rush and then try to close it, and it gets messy and it's a whole thing. So we want to pull with the syringe very gently, as gently as possible. If we're filling it up with the vacutainer, if we see the blood coming out slowly, then there's a high chance that the negative pressure is exposed to that blood sample for a lot longer. And so at that point, you want to not use the vacutainer, use the syringe instead to pull with more control. Pull, pause, pull, pause, pull, pause, especially if it's difficult. If it's an easy pull, just pull it as gently as possible. But if you're getting resistance, pause. Why? Because we have completely collapsed that vein, and we need to wait for the blood to refill back up where that catheter is or where that needle is. And so you want to pull, pause to give that vein enough time to refill with blood. Let's say the vacutainer is halfway filled. You're like, okay, this is all I need. I don't need to fill all 5 or 3 milliliters or whatever it is. When there's residual vacuum in that tube, that is going to cause hemolysis because we're prolonging the exposure of negative pressure to that blood sample. And so you want to either pop the top and close it back up, or fill it all the way. And when do you know it's filled all the way? When the blood stopped dripping. When it's full, there's no negative pressure to pull that blood. That's when you've equalized the pressure inside that tube, or just pop the top and close it, whichever you want.